Hi, this is Kim from Emerging Creatively Tutorials, and this is ECT TV, episode 80. So today I'm going to show you how to make these super fun and really cool wire beads. So to make wire beads, you're going to need wire, and you can really use any wire you like. I am using 22 gauge wire, and that works really well. 20 gauge would be fine too. You can try thicker gauges if you like. It might be a little more difficult to wrap though. And of course you can go thinner as well, but they'll not hold their shape as well. So when I opened this, I wasn't paying attention and I let it get into this tangled mess. So I'm slightly embarrassed by that, but we'll move right along. You will also need wire cutters and chain nose pliers. And then you're going to need something to wrap the wire around to kind of create the bead. And so you can use a variety of things for that. If you have kind of thin knitting needles, they would work well. You might want to try a paintbrush, like an artist paintbrush if you have one that's kind of small. Depending on what you want to use your bead for, you probably want to make the bore, kind of the hole that goes through it, which we'll create by wrapping around the object. So however wide this is how wide your bead will be for the hole in the bead. So just think about that when you're trying to find something around your house. A pen might be too big, but something thin. I'm actually going to be using my jump ring mandrel, which I have. It comes like this. You get these two sizes, and I usually use these to make jump rings, but I'm actually going to be using the smaller size and one of these kind of smaller sections here to make my bead. So really anything cylindrical that's, you know, kind of small. If you happen to have a thin dowel rod around, that would work well too. And you have to be able to pull the bead off. So if you have something that gets kind of skinny in the middle but thicker on the ends, it's not going to work as well. I don't know what that would be, but just keep that in mind. Alright, so let's get started. So we are going to start out by working right off the coil or right off the spool of wire. You're not going to cut any wire. In my case, I'm using this big bird's nest of wire that I messed up. It doesn't matter so much for this project because we're going to be wrapping quite a bit. And I also chose this wire because of the color. My inspiration for this piece was an art journal page I made, and this color, this kind of brassy, goldish color is on that page. And so the final piece is a bracelet, and I'll be sharing that over my blog. So if you click the link below this video, you can go over, you'll see step-by-step photo instructions on how to make this wire bead, and you'll also see a project that I made with it, which will hopefully inspire you to see, you know, get some ideas for what you can do with these wire beads after you make them. And I often use my art journal pages as inspiration for my jewelry pieces, and so I created this e-course called Inspired E-Course, and it's a lot of fun. It starts February 13th, and I am taking registrations now for it, so you'll learn more at the link below this video about that class. But it's a lot of fun. You're going to get really inspired, and I kind of show you different ways to get inspiration. There's creativity activities that help you create art journal pages, which then serve as inspiration for jewelry pieces, and I have a whole process I show you to go from, you know, inspiration to inspired jewelry pieces. So that's a little bit about that class. And what I teach in that class is what I actually do, so I just wanted to share that with you. So we're working right off the spool, don't cut any wire. And like I mentioned, I'm using this step mandrel, which it's a jump ring mandrel that has all these different sizes. So I am going to choose one of the smaller sizes here. And then you're just going to hold your wire against whatever you're using, whether that's a paintbrush or, you know, whatever, a knitting needle, whatever you're using. I'm going to hold the wire against it. And I like to leave like an inch of wire because it's easier to hold on to, and we can just trim that off at the end. and then we're just going to wrap around. So you want to think about how large you'd like your bead to be, so how kind of long you want it to be, and then we'll have to decide how thick you want it to be. And so however long you'd like it to be, that's how far down you should wrap. So I'm wrapping about 5 or so times, going to go down another time. And I just still have this piece right here. I'm holding on to it. So just wrap right next to each other. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be covering it up anyway momentarily, but just kind of to get a base so you kind of have something to work with, so you know how large you'd like your bead to be. So then you're just going to wrap up right on top of what you wrapped, and this can be a little bit sloppier. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you want to make it perfect, I guess you could. And we're just going to go around, kind of back and up and down, wrapping around that original base, and then on top of all the other wraps, until the bead is the size you'd like. Now, something that can happen as you're doing this is you might kind of miss a spot where you didn't wrap because it's kind of all loose and carefree as you're wrapping. So right here I have a little bit of a spot where there's wire here and there's wire on the other side. There's kind of like a little valley. So I want to make sure to hit that spot. And then I'm going to finish. I'd like to finish kind of with the wire somewhere in the middle, because it's easier to kind of tuck in that end and make sure that it's not poking out or going to come apart. So now I'm just going to slide my wire bead off of here, and then you can just kind of take a look to make sure it's the size you like. And as you see, we have a hole going through, which is the same size as the cylindrical object I wrapped it around. And then we're just going to grab our wire cutters and make a flush cut and trim this wire right down to the bead. So to make a flush cut, you want to use the back of your wire cutters, kind of flat back part. The front is more concave. If you use that side, it makes a pinch cut, but if you cut with the back, it makes a nice flush cut. And so you want to use the back toward the work, so toward our bead in this case. And I just kind of pulled this wire out a little bit so I could get in real close to the bead and make my cut. And then we just want to cut that other little bit that's from the beginning when we started our bead, and we want to make a flush cut with that as well. And then just take your chain nose pliers and make sure the ends of the wire are not poking out. So just kind of gently pushing it in. And in this case, you could actually really just make sure it gets in, because it's a whole bunch of wraps. And that is your wire bead. So please click the link below and come over to my blog, and you can see step-by-step photo instructions of this, so you can see it like nice and slow with real close-up pictures. You can also sign up for my newsletter, and then you will get ECT TV episodes right in your inbox every time one is published, so you don't have to remember to come find them. I will let you know it's ready.